So next thing we're going to work on is your credibility plan. So if you're just doing everything and you're a really, really, really good banker, how will your customers know? Well, the answer is they don't. So many of you have known that during this recession we figured out who are the bad lenders and who are the good lenders, yes? Because there's been a few lenders who have kind of stunk up the joint in a few banks, okay? So you don't really know who are the good lenders and who are the bad lenders until there's some pressure points that things kind of bubble up under. And the reality is that your customers don't know who's credible and who's not. So it's your job to create your credibility. And so I think back to between banking careers, I had a brokerage career. And I remember that there was a gentleman who in our town was not a very good financial planner. I mean, everybody knew his work was really schlocky. He wasn't that bright. He didn't know how things worked. But he always wrote an article in the paper. So who was perceived as being the top financial planner in the city? This guy. And so you can get mad about it, or you can go, oh, I got it. We're not going to let that happen again. So how do you create credibility? How do you get out there in a way where people see that you're adding information, you're beginning to be very, very credible in what you do? So the credibility plan, your media plan all comes together on page 32. So many of you were on the call. I did a special call for CEOs on a media plan not too long ago where I talked about how do you get on the media and what do you say when you get in the media so that you're constantly in front of the media. And some of our CEOs have become superstars in their communities. And so we did this seminar about 3 or 4 months ago, and I've gotten so many emails about, I just was on this paper and I was just on this television show and I just did this. You must be the person who's out there telling people what's going on. Now in times like these, do people want to know what's going on? Do they want to know your perception? Absolutely. You've got to be out there sharing ideas with people so they understand what is going on. So, with Freddie and Fannie, that was confusing. They wanted to hear. When Merrill Lynch was Enron, they wanted to hear. Bank of America, they wanted to hear. And so every time there was a little bit of a crisis, that's an opportunity for you to call up the television station, call up the paper, and say, let me tell you what's going on there. So that's covered, and you can listen back to the old teleseminar up in the private pass as well. And so all of that's available. Any of you can listen to it who are on the full program. It's available for you there. Now, what we're going to be talking next about, though, is what all of you can do to create your credibility in your market. How do you become the superstar in your market? By having articles that you place, maybe a little booklet that you publish that talks about how to get a mortgage in the best possible way, how to not get maybe you entitle your book 87 Reasons Why Most People Get the Wrong Mortgage, and then you show them your process and how you help people actually get the right mortgage. Whatever is your thing, right now I want you to be incredibly creative about what will you do to publish something or somehow get in front of people in a credible way that's either in print or on radio or your own or maybe it's a podcast or whatever it would be, or an audio. How will you teach and get information across and increase your positioning as being an expert in what you do? Now, if you're currently doing a job where you go, well, that's not really important for what I'm doing right now, think of your next job. Okay, so start to position yourself for your next job. How will you start to get the credibility so you can have that next job? The next area I want to cover on page 34, the idea of a risk reversal plan. And let me tell you how I learned of the beauty of risk reversal. I have a son who one day we're driving down the road and there's a sandwich board sitting outside of this one particular shop in Uptown in the Minneapolis area. And it said, 30-day no-risk guarantee, 30 days of free karate lessons and a free uniform. And so my son looks over at me with these big eyes and he says, Mom, that's a really good deal. Can I do that? Well, of course, there goes my Mother of the Year award if I say no at this point, right? What can I say? No, it's too expensive, right? Okay. So there's no excuses. So off we go for the free trial with the uniform. Now, if you've ever watched your kids, I don't know if anybody's ever had their kids in karate. It's quite an experience, and I really am a huge advocate of that experience. It's amazing what it does to their self-esteem. So they start in a white uniform with a white belt. And so then they start learning there's a certain little routine. It has about 14 different steps in it, and if they do that routine well, they have a little competition, and those who do it well get a yellow stripe on their white belt, which is that first little notch on the belt that says, we are getting this thing down, right? And so once they get that little yellow thing, what do they want next? the yellow belt, okay? So within the first 30 days, they managed to have another little competition, and the vast majority of them get the yellow belt. And then they have the offer. For the next 18 months, you'll be paying $88 a month to participate in the green belt program, okay? And so you get so many months to get a green belt. It's all included. You get the uniform. Everything's good to go, whatever. And so, you know, how can you say no, right? Okay, so you sign up for that, and so they start to get the green belt, and what comes next? The black belt program. Ooh, now it gets pricey, right? Okay. And so suddenly you're spending about $7 to $10 grand, and it started off as a free uniform, free 30 days, and I'm telling myself, oh my gosh, this is brilliant. This is brilliant. Everybody needs to have a free program that gets people in the door and gets them going, woo, this is really good. It's a great, great, great idea. So I went to the hair salon about a month ago, and when I'm in there, they had this construction going on. The place is tore apart, and people are all over the place, sitting in weird places. The place is a mess. And then the next time I go in, it's grand opening. And grand opening, you go to pay for your service. I just got the haircut, and she says, you know, if you buy a $300 gift certificate, your service today is free. I'm thinking to myself, what could be wrong with that? So when you have $300 that you just paid for services, what do you start to do? Think of ways to use it, right? Okay. So if you look at the research, most people who buy gift certificates never use them. So like only 40 to 50% of them actually get used. So ka-ching, ka-ching right there for them, right? Okay. Plus, as soon as I had that gift certificate, I started to buy products that, of course, have huge margins. Ka-ching, ka-ching for them. And I started to think about other things I needed, right? I mean, don't you just like need a facial once you pay for a $300 certificate? And so all of a sudden, I blew through that $300 like that, and I was thinking, I hope they have this again. And they're thinking to themselves, we got to do this again. And I said to my husband that weekend, I said, that was the most brilliant marketing ever. Do you know that they probably paid for their whole renovation? And their CFO was just going yippity skippity, look at all the cash in that we just got. They didn't have to finance. They had huge margins on what they did, and people are now using all these services. Now I have a person who I like who does facials, and I have new products that are outrageously expensive that I can buy there. And so now every time I go, I spend a lot more money, and I'm happy. Is there a metaphor here? Yes, Roxanne, I think there is. Okay, so we have to be thinking in terms of this risk reversal, you know, make it easy for them to get additional things that come with it. So what I want you doing right now is figuring out what's your risk reversal. What can you do that's going to be so cool that gets them all excited to do further business with you? So what can you get them in the door on where they go, oh, I get it. Okay, keep going here. We like what you're up to.